Well, hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peak's Peak. My name's Lucas. We're sharing our hobbies on 38 acres in eastern Kentucky. And today, well, our hobby involves wood chippers. And we have the whole lineup of MechMaxx wood chippers out here that we're going to do some tests and comparisons. So if you're shopping for a wood chipper, you can decide which one fits your needs. We've got several different styles of wood chippers. We have a 6-inch drum style wood chipper that's a 15-horse engine. We have a 35-horse 8-inch drum style chipper that is just a beast. We have the P4205, which is the 5-inch wheel style wood chipper or disc style wood chipper. So it has blades on a spinning disc. And that one I have only tested out enough to know that I think I really like that disc style of chipper for that size of wood chipper. All of these have some pros and cons. So I have this whole section of property here that we're trying to clear off for pasture. And of course, you've seen us use our brush mulcher and clear a bunch of trees, but what that brush mulcher does with the larger trees is it ends up leaving kind of the stem of the tree laying on the ground. And so we've got a lot of 2, 3, 4-inch trees with no branches on them that are laying all over the ground. So I think that's the kind of perfect scenario to set up and test out these wood chippers. So I just lined them all up here and we're gonna run some stuff through them and see how they do. Get some property cleanup done while we're at it. So this first chipper is the P4206. It is a drum style chipper that will chip up to 6-inch branches. It's electric start, got the Rato engine on it. And this is the one I've been using in my wood yard for the last probably 8 to 10 months, maybe even almost a year now. Oh, fix the emergency stop, it'll start better. Now this beast right here is the B200. This is the top of the line wood chipper that they sell on MechMaxx, and I'm impressed by it. It has a Zonson 35-horse twin cylinder engine. Got an oil cooler on it. This thing is really kind of industry standard, state-of-the-art type design. You know, it's got your air filters here, even an inner air filter like on your commercial grade equipment. Now this pull choke right here, give her just a little bit of fuel. In terms of standalone wood chippers with capability, this one takes the cake. This is a very close comparison to the wood chipper that I have that runs on the back of my tractor on the PTO. It's a very powerful model and it does a good job of feeding, even though it doesn't have a hydraulic infeed or anything like that. It does a really good job of pulling material in. It's not just a ton of work to get it to chip that brush up. Now, this chipper right here is the P4205. It has a 5-inch capability, but it has the disc or wheel style with the blades on it that spins rather than the drum. And so far in using this, I really like that style for several reasons. If I were choosing a wood chipper for a farm or residential use, this would definitely be the one that I would choose. I've ran quite a bit of material through this and it's very capable. It's not as strong as the more expensive 35-horse model, B200 model, but it is very capable. And most anything that this won't chip is big enough that it would be better served using it as firewood anyway. So I see this as kind of the best choice for homeowners and farmers. Now, if you're chipping for a living, you probably want to step up to that B200 because you've got just, a more powerful engine and more capability. But what I really like about this model is that it's easy to maneuver around. If you push it from back here, see, you can tip up the front end and you can push this around by hand and you can move it where you need it. So if you're out in your yard chipping, well, you can just grab a hold of this thing and wheel it where you need it. you don't necessarily have to have it hooked to a machine in order to operate. Now, a couple of things about how these work and what protective measures are in place for the mechanics of this machine. This has a centrifugal clutch inside of this box right here that is driven by 2 V-belts. So you actually have kind of 2 fail-safes in there. If something gets jammed in there, you're not gonna break your crankshaft on your motor or something like that, because the belts will slip or the clutch will slip, or both. And those are consumable parts. Now, obviously you don't want to damage your clutch, so you want to be careful and listen to the engine and make sure that if it sounds like the motor is straining and there's something jamming up the wheel to where it won't spin, that you get it shut off quickly and clear that jam so that you don't burn up your belts or your clutch. But that's how they operate, and it works out really well. Now, on this big 35 horse B200 model, you actually have a centrifugal clutch with 4 V-belts inside of this right here. And then also on this model right here, you have 2 belts inside here with the clutch. And I have had, if you stop your machine before it's finished chipping up the last little bit, and then you don't clear it out after it shuts off, those pieces will jam in there, and when you first fire it up, the wheel can't start spinning. So your clutch and or your belts will start slipping, and you'll burn them up if you're not paying attention. So that's one thing to look out for on these and be careful with. All right, so I think I'm going to start with the P4205 with the disc cutter, and I'm gonna hook it up to the Bighorn, drag it into the woods where I'm closer to what it is that I need to throw in it, and we'll run a few sticks through it, and then we'll pull it up here and park it and try the next one. We'll kind of work our way through them that way. That's what happens when you bump the emergency stop. I don't like doing that. All right, guys, so we ran a pretty good amount through the chipper here, got us a nice little pile of chips, and I wanted to kind of share with you the consistency of the chips, because this disc style chipper it creates a little bit different wood chip than the drum style chipper. So, you know, that's what they look like. It's really, you know, nice quality wood chips. Let's move on to the next one. I think because I have used the 6-inch drum style chipper on my channel before, I will pull it over here real quick and chip up some chips right next to this, just to kind of show it as a close comparison, because that's kind of the nearest competitor to this model right here. And then lastly, we'll pull the big V-twin 35 horse in here and we'll finish cleaning up. All right, guys, so this is the P4206 with a drum, and we know pretty much what this one will do. If you follow my channel, I've been using it at the wood yard quite a bit. But for those of you here for the comparison, we're gonna fire this up. We'll feed some stuff through it, and then we'll show you what the chips look like when we're done. Now, I've always told you guys, I'll be totally honest in these videos and tell you what I really think. And what I think about this drum chipper at this point is it's a lot more work to run this one than it was that disc style 4205. Even though that 4205 is a little bit less expensive of a chipper, it just does a better job. Now, this does not have fresh blades on it, so there's a little bit of an unfair comparison there in that I've been using this one for 8 months or a year. But that being said, this one has always taken more effort to feed the materials into it. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it's about the drum style that causes that. But if they have enough power, that drum style works really well. It's got a lot of spinning momentum, and you'll see when we fire up this 35 horse that it's a whole different ball game. So all of these pieces I started to feed in, and it was just going to be too much work. So I threw them aside. And what I'm going to do is show you the chips out of this one, and then we'll pull that B200 down here and we'll throw this big stuff in it and show you how it eats. There is a possibility the last time I adjusted these knives that I got them a little too close, because you're supposed to go from like about a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch. And I've got it pretty tight across there. And I think that's affecting the feed on this. I may need to adjust my knives on this just a little bit to make it cut better. We're getting smaller chips out of this. Now before, I was getting huge chunks, and that's why I adjusted the knives. So you got to get that right for this to really work right, and I think that's part of the problem. But as you'll see, I adjusted the knives on the B200, and with enough horsepower, this is not near as much of an issue. So far, really, I've only found one negative to this, and that is because it's a beast. Well, it's a beast. So it's heavy to move around, but it's a cool setup, as you're about to see. Ready for the B200. We're gonna fire this up and we're gonna throw some big stuff in it so that you can see what this is made of. 35 horse V-twin. Now, this is not a cheap wood chipper, but it is a very capable, very solid machine that would be great for, you know, having on the farm or in your wood yard or around your home, or even for some of you commercial lawn care people, easy to tow around, things like that. So let's check out a few things about this one. And I don't know, I probably ran this for about 30 minutes or so. We cleaned up a lot in this area. And we got one little chip that's been bouncing around in there that didn't finish itself off. But for the most part, we're pretty good there. All right, so let's check out our wood chips. Now you can see this one, this one throws the wood chips a long ways. We probably have about a 15-foot path of wood chips here because this one's got some heat on it when it throws the wood chips out of here. But we've got a pile probably a foot deep that runs that 10 or 12 feet. And we've actually got several piles down through here, but this is kind of the last place we stopped. And you know, you get a nice sized chip out of this. It does, like I said, the chips look a little different on this drum style of wood chipper rather than the one with the disc or the wheel. But with that 35 horse V-twin engine, this has just got a lot of power, so it'll really pull that stuff in there, and it eats it up pretty good. So of the three that we ran today, the B200 and the P4205 are my favorites. If you're on a budget, I would go with that P4205. It does a really good job, and it's affordable, but it's also lightweight enough that you can push it around and use it, you know, in your yard without having to tow it around if you don't want to. And then this B200 is more of a big rugged piece of equipment that, you know, when you set out to use it, you're on a mission because it takes a little bit of work to hook it up and get ready to go. But once you've got it out here, man, you can accomplish so much more in a shorter amount of time. And that's usually the case when you spend more money on bigger equipment. Well, you can get the job done quicker. But if you're on a budget, then you just got to be a little more patient and do it a little slower. So, guys, I hope that this wood chipper comparison will be something that will help you in making your decision. Now, I will tell you, there's still a lot of work involved in running a wood chipper. And that was one thing that if I was going to say anything negative about wood chippers in general, and this is the case with all of them that I have ran, I've not tried one with a hydraulic infeed, but even my PTO tractor wood chipper, it takes some effort to, you know, lift these big trees and things in there and push them and get them to feed. You know, sometimes you've got to be creative, get another stick and push to get it to pull it on through. It's not just easy work. You still work for it, but it's something that you really can't accomplish with any other tool. So that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Now guys, don't forget, if you're going to purchase a MechMaxx product, I'm sponsored by them. I have a discount code that will save you 5% and earn me a little bit of commission. So use code Lucas, 5% off, and you put a space between Lucas and 5% and off. And that code will work on the final checkout page when you're ready to pay. Save you 5%, which on one of these is going to be 150 to 200 bucks. So yeah, it's worth doing. Plus it helps pay me for doing this work out here. Till next time, get outside and enjoy God's creation because it's beautiful out here. Y'all have a good day.